And we are live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Talk No Jutsu Live. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I'm here with Peter, Culture Scape, Happy Warrior.
Howdy, howdy.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me. Glad to do it.
A sorry, just my trying to make sure my stream. Oh yeah, yeah, everything's working fine. Sorry for a second. I just thought it wasn't because I had to delete the previous stream and then restart the stream just for because I forget about with StreamYards. You have to like set it up on StreamYards itself instead of YouTube. I sometimes forget that.
Gotcha, gotcha. I
Yeah.
understand. I sometimes struggle with it. I have to, for the show. I have to balance because I interview a mix of like a lot of older people, so they're like authors and stuff. So Zoom works best for them, but then I also have a lot of younger people, so I have to do StreamYard and switching between the two and remembering like, okay, so this
Yeah,
is how
that
this works. I have
yeah,
to use
that
OBS this time and not that time. It can get confusing.
yeah, that's one of the interesting things like about like you've interviewed a lot of like very high profile like people and people like from across the aisle also, which I think is very admirable.
Yeah, no, I have been amazed that anyone will talk to me at all. Um, I'm
So
a bit of
same
a
here actually.
I'm a bit of a dinosaur in the sense that I still feel like it's pre 2014, and you can just talk to whoever, and like being having a certain politics or having a certain background is like a secondary or tertiary concern. It's just like, oh hey, it's that guy. That's kind of where I always hope things will go back to. So that's my
Same
default.
Same here because I remember growing up in school I mean people could be open about like political differences, and yeah, the liberals and the conservatives would like fight in school, but it's just like eventually like sometime around 2015 and stuff, like all of that just like it became politics, just became like a different animal entirely, and like just something you don't even talk about with people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the 2000s, even the early 2010s, you could have like really widely different backgrounds and still be into the same thing. Like one of my friends who was into anime, he was a diehard Baptist. I'm LDS, and so sometimes we butt heads a little bit on that. But it was like because we came from such different backgrounds, it didn't matter if I had another friend who's a diehard atheist, and he still is. Like those things obviously are our belief systems. All those things matter, but it's like, well, but we're fans of these things first. We're friends of these things first. And all that stuff, while it is important, it's not saying like, no, you can't be a conservative. Oh, you can't be a progressive. But it's like, there are bigger things than that. Politics is kind of tawdry. It's kind of dirty. And it passes. Like you talk to, you go to a family gathering like Thanksgiving, and you talk to your uncle who was really active in the 70s, and he's talking about, the problems of Jimmy Carter and taxflation. I'm like, okay, thank you, Uncle. But to him it feels very real because it was important in the 70s and the 80s, but now it feels like and that's what's going to happen to us. Everyone talking about Trump, wokeness, all this stuff. It's going to feel very silly in
It's
a
going to feel
decade or
very
two.
dated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I hope so, because honestly, like one of my things like with my channel, like a lot of people like build their channels on just like being anti woke, and that's it. Whereas like me, I'm like even if like wokeness like goes away, I still have gaming. I still have like things I want to be into, because ultimately I like like what we did with when Lofty invited us to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like
Yeah,
everyone
it was
there
fun.
liked the game, and and it was fun. I'm glad he does stuff like that.
Yeah, and I do too. You know, it's weird. I get a lot of trouble lately because I'm friendly with some other games journalists. They're like, "Well, you're just being nice to those people because you want their attention. You want to be accepted by the legacy media." And it's like, no, it's really not that. They won't. They on a professional level, most of them will never accept me. So I have no qualms. It's just like I like that thing, they like that thing, and that's what we have in common. And that should be enough in my mind. It's like that should be enough, you know. Because that's how it should be, right? Like it used to be games journalists. You know, this is so crazy. I tell this to someone that's in their younger 20s who don't remember the world pre Gamergate with gaming culture and the culture wars, and I'm like, you need to understand. Being a games journalist used to be like the coolest job in the world. Like that was a job everyone wished you could have.
Oh
You would
yeah, totally. I
Yeah, they were advocates. They were like, "This guy's one of us. He's advocating." And so when 2014 happened,
I used to love like collecting Game Informers, man.
yeah, it was so crazy because I was not into Gamergate, but I was in starting grad school, and
Yeah,
I
I
would
was in
just
college when Gamergate happened. I didn't really quite understand what was going on. I just saw some of the memes, and that's basically like all I got.
yeah, and it was so weird because I would read IGN, Kotaku, and some other sites daily, and then all of a sudden there's like all these articles about like gamers are dead and why gamers are bad. And I'm just like what happened? I was I felt a little like a buzz hit me because I was like, what? What? Because it didn't make any
Well,
sense.
I just remember IGN having that article about Dragon's Crown, like almost like pinned to their site. Like this is what the Dragon's Crown lady looks like, and I know like that was like a big contentious topic. You know, just how big her breasts were.
Dude, and it was like all the sites. This is what drives me nuts. And I did an interview with a Kotaku journalist 2 episodes ago. Yeah, with Levi Winslow, very nice person, very much of the left, but that's okay. We have our differences. It was a good discussion. Anyhow, the thing though is like Kotaku, IGN, all these sites, they used to get tons of traffic on pushing horny content. Like IGN especially, they had a whole I forget what they called it. They had a special section where it just featured like gals in bikinis, women wearing skimpy clothing at cosplay,
Oh, that
at
sounds great.
cons. Oh, Kotaku had its own thing, and it. Part of me just always gets a giggle when they're like, "Well, this is our version of horny content is okay, but yours
Oh
is
yeah, the
bad."
whole safe horny thing that's been going on with the whole
And I'm just
Hades
like,
thing
"Are
all
you kidding
day.
me? I know all of you guys. I was there. I remember all of you were posting this kind of stuff. I mean, it's freaking
Yeah,
ridiculous."
yeah. It is really ridiculous, and it's just very counterproductive, in my opinion, because like people are just trying to enjoy life and have fun, and you're scolding people for something that's pretty like natural, like to have, like just being like attracted to like sexuality in general, just like and then like saying, oh sorry, oh shoot, my hang on, did I lose you?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's just sorry, my VTuber studio just crashed. I'll get that back up.
The magic of VTubers has been lost.
No,
VTuber
I'm getting back.
VTubing it's more difficult than I quite realize. So kudos to those who do it.
I don't know. I think like showing your face is would be more difficult. Okay, yeah, so like everything is like frozen right now. Shit. We're still connected though, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know. I don't have YouTube up. I just had the StreamYard up. I can look up you on YouTube if you want. Yeah,
Oh, oh, yeah. Well, if StreamYards is still working, that's fine. I just don't know why everything's frozen right now on my end. Um, I can't even access anything on my desktop. That's how bad it is right now.
You are still going. See, I see you right here. You're still there. I'm still here. Your guy's moving around. Now it's just me, all by my lonesome. Hello, everyone. I'm just gonna be here while Dash figures out his equipment. I have this problem frequently. It
Oh,
happens.
hey, thanks for covering. I'm back.
Oh yeah. No problem.
Hey,
I
Jihan, how's it going? Yeah. So, anyway, we were talking about, yeah, like the divide and how, like, horniness used to be like more acceptable with these game journalists, and then they just suddenly all became prudes, but only on a selective basis.
Yeah, this you remember X Play? Do you remember like G4 TV?
Yeah, I unfortunately did not have G4 TV. Like, I always wanted it though. It was like, because it was a special cable channel. We never came with our cable package.
Oh, okay. See, I never had. No, I come from a working class background. So then when someone does, it's like when I'm a kid, I'm like, well, we can't afford Cartoon Network, so we don't know what you're talking about, Peter. That's so no, it's okay. Um, you played the God of War series. I'm taking. Did you play those original
I
games?
played the Chains of Olympus, and I tried playing the original God of War, and the QuickTime events filtered me. I couldn't even beat the Hydra because of that damn
Okay.
QuickTime event. The bar was too high. I could always retry and like correct that mistake.
Well, if you remember those games, the women that show up in them, they're
Oh
often
yeah,
very
the sex
scantily
mini game.
clad.
Like there was
Yep.
one in Chain of Olympus.
Dude, but that was just part of gaming. That was just part of the popular culture, and like everyone was into it. So it's so weird. We're now this. First, it's weird. It is weird to me that people do this. We're like, can I like this thing? I have to go see if my team says I can like it. Can we like this, guys? That's weird, but people do that. The second thing is like I like all of you guys, especially things like G4 TV, for example. And this is kind of the Frost thing. I think fell into this a little bit. Was like, you guys were constantly trying to sell things with sex, like all the time. It was always in your face, and now you're like, whoa, can't
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. The media was constantly trying to sell sex
yeah.
and stuff, and
Bring
that
out
was
the
considered
fainting couches.
progressive at the time. And then
Yeah,
suddenly all that became evil. It's yeah.
yeah. And it
I
was the
think it's
conservatives
bullshit.
that were
I think
against it. Yeah, that's right. I forgot.
yeah. I think it's bullshit. And I miss the 2000s. Even the early 2010s. I miss.
Yeah, I do too. Especially right now where uh, this isn't okay. So I don't generally swear, but the official term is the enshittification of the internet. Colin Trevorrow, I'm sure I got that name wrong. Colin Trevorrow is the director. He's a tech
Colin
journalist. And
Trevorrow.
yeah, I said Colin Trevorrow, but they're like, wait, no, that's a film director. He did not. So the enshittification of the internet is this idea that the internet is becoming worse because the companies that control it or made it what it is. So like Facebook, which is now Meta, YouTube, Google, Amazon, all these companies, basically why the internet was so awesome in the 2010s was that we were getting a ton of stuff that was really cool, really open, and was really cheap. And the reason they did this was it's this model that they came from Silicon Valley was we're going to just we want our goal is to get so we can get to critical mass, so we can get the network effect, drag everything in. So we're just going to give things as cheap as possibly can. And then once we're so big that no one else can go there, then we're going to make everything expensive. We're going to pull all that money from people. And we're in that stage right now. And
Yeah.
it's why everything is getting worse. Why your subscription costs are going up. Why everyone is adding ads. It's why all these things are just becoming awful. And it's because it's like now is money time.
Oh
We
yeah.
were doing
Like
all that, and you guys were thinking, oh, they were doing it from they love the internet. I I remember there was this documentary in the early 2010s. This is when Facebook was still, people loved Facebook. And it talked about, oh, it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. Facebook is making us all connected. You know, that techno optimism. And it's so funny now because I'm like, was that really a good idea? I'm not so sure. Sorry, I could get on a rant because people who are in news right now are just getting eaten alive by Google because Google is trying to just throttle the news industry for all it's worth. So at the moment, it feels I'm not feeling very forgiving or patient with the big tech companies. But I don't think I'm the only one because I do hear
Oh
from
yeah, a lot of people are fed up with like, the tech companies and stuff, and that's why like, people like, were like, like when Elon like bought Twitter, it kind of like gave like a new sense of optimism, whereas for other people it was like doom and gloom, like, oh my god, this is like better. And yeah, I don't think like everything he's done is changed. Like for one, like I was complaining about one of the changes last night actually, but I do think like, certainly the culture at in Twitter is like changing. Like things seem a little bit like less restrictive. But then there's like also tons of bots and pussy in bio and
so
shit
many
like that.
bots. So many bots.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I know it's funny. It's like Google search is so bad. It is just about useless for doing any research, even casual research. But like serious research like for work, if I have to write up an article or I have to stay up a subject, Google's about useless now. I mean, if I even look up my stuff and I'm like trying to look up for anything like pre 2020, 2019, you get nothing. You get nothing back because it just doesn't work anymore because all Google search is now going to be used for is trying to drag us into its AI content and see how many ads they can push into us. And it's just so sad to me because it feels like it wasn't that long ago where the internet was like this amazing thing where anyone on the planet, if they have an internet connection, can access, the entire knowledge of humanity. And now it's like, oh, you don't really get that anymore because we can't monetize it. So we're putting you back in the little box, and I don't really want to go there.
So you're saying like Google only directs like to pages that have ads?
Yeah, no, Google. This is like a huge topic unto itself. But the short of it, what's going on now is Google doesn't. None of the big sites, Facebook included, they don't want to be paying people for content. So they want it so that they'll be all in house. So, for example, Facebook, it used to, for example, it's hard to get into this without history. Can you handle a little bit of history? Will that be
No,
okay?
sure. No, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why news is dying is because in the 90s, the big publishers, in particular Wall Street Journal, Gannett, I forget the other company that owns the newspapers now, like with USA Today, New York Times. They basically made this deal with the big internet companies. At that time it was like Yahoo. And they said, you know what? We just kind of want to put our stuff online and you can deal with the ads. You can deal with the money stuff because we don't really think this is going to go anywhere anyways. This is just kind of like bonus for us. So you can handle it. We'll let you handle it. This was a terrible idea. They didn't realize at the time that this would end up just screwing over everyone. So essentially, it used to be, if you were a newspaper, if you're a news organization, you were selling access to the stuff in the thing. And it wasn't just news. It was like if you're a newspaper, here's the obituaries, here's the classifieds. You want to know movie times, you got to go to us, right? So you could sell ads. You could sell ads for a decent amount. There was no promise like, oh, you go here because we'll have left-wing people and they'll want to do it. Or we'll have right-wing people, which is kind of how it is now. It was, no, it's just people. You want things, you have to come to us. We got ads, it's how we make money. But instead, they gave that ownership over to these companies. Eventually, that would just basically be Google and Facebook, who pretty much own all the ads now.
Yeah, that's true.
And what happened was, at some point, and I think it was because Facebook learned this lesson. At some point, after they had told the news companies in the 2010s, hey, just put your content on our site and we'll help promote you. We'll help. What they were doing was, hey, we want your audience that reads, the Wall Street Journal, and we want them to come to us, Facebook. At the point where Facebook was like, okay, now that we have them, get out of here. We don't need you. And so, and because they don't want to share any of the money whatsoever, they want to retain all those clicks. They don't want the clicks leaving the site. They just don't want to pay them. So now we have AI. AI enters the picture, and so some genius was like, if we had AI and AI could rewrite the articles, then they would never have to leave. This is genius. So this is Google's plan, and you can see it. I forget. You'll have to look up pictures. If you have the beta going for Google, it's if you click news, it says news. Now it says something to the extent of news doesn't include just articles, but other content. And what Google is trying to do, and you can see this sometimes if you look up a news topic, is at the top, it will have a summary of the news. And then you'll have to scroll down to actually get to the real source. So what they're trying to do, Google especially, is they don't want you to actually go to the sites. They don't even really want you to read the story. They just want you to engage with their summary of it. And
I didn't even know they were doing that. I've never really clicked the news tab.
Yeah, no, news over the last year, and this is frustrating. I was always sort of kind of friends with Taylor Lorenz, but I will give her credit. She's been one of the few people that's actually been opening but what's happening, because the news industry doesn't want to admit that any of this is happening. Over the last year, Google has throttled traffic at all the sites. Many sites more than others. So some of the bigger sites, some of the sites they like, especially owned by Valnet, heavens knows what deal they made. They aren't getting as throttled as much, and in some cases they're boosting others. So Reddit, which isn't a news site, Reddit, Quora, they're getting boosted like crazy. But like I almost had a job last year running the video news department for this one website. It was super cool. I was really excited. Same day I get the contract, they're like, oh no, we can't do this. They add the helpful content updates, what they call this, is back in October. It just hit, and we're just down. And there's so many stories like that. And it's across the board. But the news companies don't really want to talk about it, and journalists don't ever want to admit something's going wrong because it means admitting weakness, and maybe they'll hurt you. But it's a mess. It's a complete mess. And of course, if I say any of this, usually outside of my little show, it's like the good my fellow friends, some libertarians, some of the conservatives, that follow me, are on Twitter. They're like, well, the journalists are running out of work. They say something usually like, good, they deserve it. I
understand. I understand you can't say that. Like, our people won't come on your show, but like, from like a lot of us, we really hate how they've treated us, and like treated like, our concerns about our franchises and about us as people.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely agree. There's a huge problem of media bias that has gotten worse, definitely, over the last decade. But it's like, if it wipes out all news, right? Or it's gonna be pushing more boilerplate. That does hurt all of us, though, because that's where we get useful information.
Well,
see, imagine if we lose access to news, but we still have social media, and that becomes your main source. I mean, you will get certain stories that will do really well, the bit more popular ones, but then there are like a lot of niche topics that are important. So like health or like disability issues, which is what I've traded and I've done a lot of reporting on. Or stories that are like not very it doesn't seem very important, like what's happening in your local community, street crime, but is actually very important to that little area, but by itself isn't very popular, so won't get a lot of clicks. All that stuff's kind of going to go away, and that's going to leave a vacuum, and that's going to lead to problems. If you're curious, Dash, and maybe this will interest your viewers. During 2016, this started, and it was repeated during the 2020. The Democrats especially, but some Republicans, they figured out that if they went to these areas of these states, special battleground states, that didn't have local news anymore because the newspapers had died out, they would then create their own fake newspaper, and then they would just populate it with content that was pro whoever their candidate was and anti of the other candidate. And there was a whole bunch of these across the country. It's actually pretty fascinating. But yeah, people have no idea. But if you're working in the news industry, and this makes me so mad because all these people who are going into journalism, and there's thousands each year. You know, they're graduating from J school, and there's no jobs. There's nothing here for you. This is a bad choice. You've made a terrible, terrible life decision. Uh, it's a mess. It's I wouldn't say apocalyptic, but it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And no one cares because the journalists managed to piss everyone off. So there you go.
Yeah, that's yeah. So but yeah, I get what you're saying. Like having an entire industry like go away isn't all that good. What would be better is if that industry were to be like reformed and like you had better ethics in said industry.
I agree. This is kind of like I know you've been somewhat critical of Mr. Mark Kern. I've had some criticism. I think he's
I've
done
had
some
him. I've
good,
always
but
been a big fan of his. Like, he actually used to follow my old account before I got banned, before I was even internet personality.
yeah, no, like I said, I like a lot of what he does,
Yeah,
but
but the community managers thing, I just felt like it was too much of a tangent. That like, he's kind of like just like kind of like a little bit of outrage farming now almost. And
yeah,
I just felt like it's kind of distracting about like what was bringing everyone together, and that was like these consulting firms that are like babying our games,
hmm
making our games like for
yeah, and
babies. Like,
that paternalistic attitude, like oh, we have to feed the babies their vegetables. Yeah,
yeah, people can't. Oh, this is too offensive. We can't have this. We have to write this character this way. I think that's like no, like write the character however you want. You don't need any consulting group to show how like just do how games were made in the past.
yeah. No, you want the effort to be a creative endeavor. You don't want to feel like there was executive meddling or that people with good ideas weren't hired or weren't allowed to work on the project because they didn't fit whatever it was the political mold
Oh
of the
yeah,
day.
or do you want like the same like think tank of people writing every video game,
Yeah, do you
every
want
big
more pink
budget video
sludge?
game?
Do you remember the pink sludge? This is another thing dating me. Pink sludge?
What's the pink sludge?
Pink sludge. So I live in South Dakota, and that's where this happened. So pink sludge, I wonder if it's come back. But was this idea was when you have a meat processing plant, a lot of the meat you go through by itself is unusable, right? But to not waste product, they would then run it through this chemical vat. And it was technically safe to eat, but it would come out as like this pink goo, and then they would add it into the meat and then you would never know it was in there. You never know it was different. And this was a big viral story, and that's kind of how I feel about a lot of like AAA gaming. And this it feels like pink sludge. It feels like they took something of value and then they ram it through a machine, and it just comes out as just like this generic ooze. It's so much, especially Western AAA games. They just feel like anyone could have made it. Like this is, and it's you play games like, a lot of Japanese games that kind of fit into the AAA mold. They have so much flavor. They have so many interesting things to say, and then the stuff that's coming from our country in that scene are just. I mean, you could so many, especially those Sony games where they're just like walking simulators.
Oh
They're
yeah,
forgettable.
genre diversity is like dead at Sony. Like, they have to like rely on all the third party games from Square Enix to get anything like, different than just like, these interactive like movies. Well, I mean, Square Enix games have been interactive movies for a while, but there's still plenty of gameplay in those interactive movies. Whereas like, it just seems like, the way the Sony like movie games, like they're just I don't know. I don't buy too many of them because they just don't really appeal to me. I didn't even get the new Spider-Man game. I mean, I played part of the first Spider-Man game. It's just all right. It just seems like kind of like
Yeah,
yeah, the
no,
first Spider-Man game's pretty good. I think I didn't beat it, but from what I played, it was pretty good. But then they made Peter Parker's face into Tom Holland.
that's right. I remember that. I thought that was weird because
Yeah,
he was supposed to be an adult. He wasn't supposed to be a teenager. He was supposed
that
to be like,
that was
I don't know.
creepy.
That was weird. It was obvious what they were doing too, and they're like, "We didn't do that. That didn't happen. You imagined it." Like, no, I saw it. I saw it. Don't do that. Don't play games with me. What is that? Respawn. Don't play games with me.
Oh, it
I
was
know what happened.
Insomniac.
Insomniac. Sorry. No, I agree. I feel like that's kind of like where so much, and even the wokesters I think that I've talked to, they kind of get that feeling, but they think it's for a different reason. But they kind of get the feeling that yeah, this is just kind of bland.
Yeah, because they want to play good games too, even if they like agree with like some of these causes or ideals of inclusivity. Like like the product still needs to be good. Like that's why like whenever I see an Arcane or a Final Fantasy 16 like do like something like right, like like I praise it. I think it should like stick out, like see like that things can be done right. Like it's not that like everything needs to follow like one political ideology or another. It just needs to be good, compelling, and entertaining, and like connect with people as human beings.
Yeah, no, exactly. You want something that's real. You don't want to feel like you just got some not Dr. Pepper. I was gonna say you just got some Pepsi, some Coke, some McDonald's, just some corporate product.
Like
The
like
bulk, yeah,
when you watch like a certain media, you can tell like what characters like are actual characters and what characters are just there to meet a quota.
no, that is it can be controversial to say, but it's true. It is interesting to me. Chris Ferguson, who is he's a psychologist and a psychology researcher over at the University of Stetson. He's on Twitter. You've probably seen his stuff now and then. He's done a lot of research into the GamerGate movement, and he looked into like political and ideological affiliation, and he found that actually the people who are interested in that topic they actually are political left. Like they lean
Really?
leftwards. Yes, and they actually have quite a wide amount of racial and ethnic diversity in that group. But it doesn't seem that way the way it's portrayed
Well, that's
online.
that's because the narrative, yeah, like the media, like will they'll discount like centrists and lump them with the far right, and like even like people who are just center left, like they'll just like because it goes against the narrative, like everyone has to be like this enemy, like that if you disagree with things, and like if you would disagree with this, then it must be because of some like racist or sexist like fe- feelings,
Yeah.
and that you're just like all your points are just masking your racism and or some bullshit like that. I mean, and that's not to say there aren't like people that like try and like take advantage of these types of movements and stuff, but like but for every one of that, there's like genuine people who just want good entertainment.
Yeah, it's so awesome to see Baldur's Gate 3. They are the first studio that has been able to win all five major game awards.
Oh
Don't ask
yeah,
me to list them. I won't be able to do that. But
no man, I still haven't. I had to move on to other games because Baldur's Gate was so massive, and my multiplayer campaign kind of fell apart. It's hard to get everyone to play like
yeah,
a
and
game like that, but it is cool that it can be done.
yeah, the game is so brilliant in so many ways. Like for one, it's how it was crafted. Like Larian Studios, they were able to punch above their weight to make something that's kind of in the AAA compartment, but they're really a smaller studio that usually makes those games, and they're based in Ireland and throughout Europe. I got to interview the one of their senior writers. I think he just left the company, but he wrote Asterion. He was kind of like in charge of the undead characters in the game. That was really neat. Very nice
Oh,
guys.
cool. And
Stephen Rooney, and he kind of talked about that. He said, working at Larian is different. He said, when you were a writer working at Larian, when you weren't writing the game, you were helping to test it. That they would have people who are in run roles, so you're writing for this game. Sometimes you would be then you have to help do QA testing, which is so different. I don't think that would ever happen at a company like like a really big game company. But that's what
yeah,
they did. And it was just a whole different. It was just a whole different philosophy of making games. And then from the political ideological angle, it's all there, but it's all optional. And the way they call it is player sexual. The game's not heterosexual, it's not homosexual, it's player sexual. So it's whatever you want it to be. I think that's brilliant because it's like this world has a certain flavor, but it's you, the player, how much you want to
And
engage
that's
with
kind of
it.
like how D&D is as a game. Like,
Yeah.
the campaign and the tone is what you want. Of course, like Baldur's Gate is like a dark D&D campaign, because of like, what's going on with the main plot, you know.
No, it's fantastic. It's an amazing game. It's so good.
Yeah, yeah, it's really good. Especially for me because I've been playing like Dungeons and Dragons fifth edition for a while. I've been upset with like some of the more recent changes like that they've made to the edition, but like I think they incorporated 5e rules to the game. Like it's almost like you are playing D&D on the computer. Like that's how well they adapted the rules.
And everyone's happy. Everyone's happy with it. I don't hear anyone. I mean, there are always a few people who are trying to make hay and who want to be grumpy about it. The vast majority of people like it.
It's
And
impressive, like it's intuitive, even when the game, like I mean, like they're still patching it. Like I hear they just added new endings to just
yeah,
recently.
it's fantastic. I don't know what. I don't know. It is such a screw up, by the way, by Wizards. I mean, they've screwed up so many times the last year, but
Oh yeah,
huge
they're a
screw
horribly
up.
run company.
Huge screw up to let those people go.
Oh yeah. Well, if, in
Like,
a way, I think it's because they're jealous. They're jealous. Like they're very prideful at Wizards of the Coast. Like they've been butting heads with like the people who made Dragonlance. Like they couldn't work. Their deal fell under. They pissed off a bunch of the old D&D writers with their like racism warnings. Like it's like, hey, we wrote this stuff. You're messing with our name. Can you please remove that?
it's
Yeah, yeah.
insane.
But I mean, like, yeah, Wizards, and then like the movie, which bombed at the box office, but it was pretty good. I liked it. Did you
It was
see the
solid.
movie?
Yeah, I like the movie a lot. It's a favorite one I've watched with my brother and sister in law a few times. I like the chunk. I like the chunky dragon. That always makes me laugh because you see him in
Yeah,
the background when he moves, he rolls.
yeah. Apparently, that dragon's like in the lore. Like that is
Really,
like a character. I'm not familiar with it, but apparently, like he's a reference of some kind.
it's fantastic. I mean, it still makes me laugh just thinking about.
Yeah, my dad likes the part with with the talk to dead, speak to the dead. That was really funny.
That was. Eh, Wizards of the Coast. What the heck are you doing? And they're not like Bethesda. Bethesda is a company that's like Teflon. Bethesda could do everything wrong and they'll still fail upwards. Wizards of the Coast doesn't have that ability, and like the hubris, just the hubris that they were like, well, we will keep working on Baldur's Gate 3, but we're gonna let Larian is like, we're just gonna go do our own thing. I'm like, give Larian whatever they want. Don't be like, no, we can update Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, we could do that. Uh-huh.
Well,
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Sure.
Larian
Sure.
really doesn't really need the D&D brand to make a good game. I played their previous game, Divinity: Original Sin 2, and it was fantastic. It had great characters like the Red Prince.
Yeah, Fane. I love Fane.
Oh yeah. Let's see, Fane, was that the one I hooked up with? She's the one who's possessed by the devil, right?
No, Fane is the skeleton dude.
Oh, Fane. Oh, yeah. I didn't have him in my party, but yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, he's the skeleton you can bone. Which
Well,
is so weird, but that's funny.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Lorian's pretty horny.
yeah, they really are. That is true. They would fail safe horny. It's crazy. It is. It's
Yeah,
amazing the ineptitude of some of these companies.
yeah. I definitely am looking forward to whatever. Like they say, it's going to be a completely new IP, so it's not going to be Divinity 3.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
For a
And what do
while
you think?
there,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for a while there, they could pretty much print money. I mean, that thing is still like on the Steam charts. BG3.
Yeah.
It has such legs. Like it's so crazy to me that like all the fumbles WotC has made in this last year, just just walking into rake after rake.
Yeah,
It's
like the big
impressive.
one was that the OGL thing.
Yeah. Oh, that was smart. That was smart because they
But
didn't learn from Paizo apparently. Whatever. Sorry.
yeah. Yeah,
I,
so
I
what do you think of this whole thing with the Warhammer stuff?
Warhammer. I've only played the tabletop game a little bit. It's not really my thing. I've
Yeah, I
read.
know bits of the lore, not an expert. I've played some games. I do have some Tyranids that are collecting cobwebs at my parents' house.
Yeah, yeah. So I know some about 40K. I've read a book or two. Read the Wikipedia. I played like an off game. So far, my experience, the 40K games that I've played aren't very good, but I think it's fun. I have friends and family that collect them. They're crazy into them, and go to the store, buy the figurines. They buy all the special paints. They get a teeny tiny paintbrush. They do all that stuff. They're really into it. And hey, it's cool for those who do it. It's frustrating because, and this kind of does tie into WotC and even Disney, because it feels like the this is uh, okay. So there's this writer called Yuval Levin. Yuval Levin, he writes about all kinds of stuff. He's a conservative philosopher and some other things, but he coined this idea. I can't think of the correct term, but the idea is that something happened in the 2010s where organizations, and specifically people, they went from going to their roles and thinking that they were going to be part of an institution to thinking that they should use the institution as a platform. So think of it this way. Um, you get a job at McDonald's. Okay, if you're an employee at McDonald's, you are there for McDonald's benefit. You work for them, they pay you. If you somehow become manager at McDonald's, you aren't going to be like, now let's turn to, we'll turn to McDash. It's now the
Yeah,
Dash Shack. Let's get our
yeah,
fast food. No, because it's like you were there as a steward for this property, right? Yes, you are here, but there will be people here after you're gone. Someone has got to take good care of this. It's not just that McDonald's exists solely for your benefit. But what changed was that for institutions, people no longer felt that they had to stand up for the institution. Instead, the institution is supposed to be supporting them. So you could see this definitely in politics all the time, where all of a sudden they're like, I know I'm in charge of the regional Wendy's chain, but I have to tell you about, and then choose your political issue. Uh, and I'm using some farcical examples, but you see it in things like Doctor Who. You see it in things like Star Wars. So it's not just on the small level, but it's also on the big level, where people are in these institutions and they don't think, I'm getting to write Star Wars. I need to make the best dang Star Wars that I can do
yeah.
because Star Wars is awesome. And after I leave, after I'm long dead in the ground, hopefully, Star Wars will still be going on. And that would be
Well,
wonderful.
yeah, like
Doctor Who, another example.
that's the other thing. Like one of the things like the sequel trilogy sucks is that it had all these references to the original trilogy, but it had no concern for the legacy or the impact of the story. Knock the prequels all you want. Like you can watch like 1 through 6 as one complete like story. When you add the sequel trilogy to that story, it doesn't fit. It's like a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. It breaks everything.
Yeah. I'm not a huge Warhammer guy, but my favorite thing in the universe used to be Doctor Who. I collected like all the Big Finish, read all the
Yeah, I
book,
used to
anything I could
watch
get into.
Doctor Who. My dad was very we liked the Tennant era.
Yeah, and what changed, and this is actually the perfect example of Doctor Who. So Doctor Who is a 60-year property, and it was just writer after writer after writer, producer after producer. They all each had their ideas, but they all had the hope that this would continue on. And they knew we could do certain things, but there are things we can't do. Or if they were going to get near that line, the BBC or whatever would hold them back. Okay, this is a franchise. It's going to continue onward. what's changed, and this kind of thing is there's always been kind of left wing people that more left wing people tend to be artistic in these entertainment
Yep.
industries. We could argue the reason why, but that's just kind of the fact. What changed is that in our culture somehow it became that if you're working for Doctor Who, if you're writing Star Wars, it's not enough to just do really good Doctor Who, really good Star Wars. No, you have to fit your political message, you have to fit your personal beliefs. And that's kind of the big thing that's changed. So you get these people who are left wing, but they think it's not good enough that I'm working on Warhammer, like Warhammer, which has a very dark universe, very misogynistic,
Yeah, well,
racist,
it's
awful
yeah.
universe. Yeah,
Well, yeah, like that's like the whole thing. Like,
yeah, that's the
there
point.
are no good guys. There are no good guys in Warhammer. Like everything is just war, death, and hate. That's pretty much like the consistent themes of like the Warhammer universe. Is that like in the future, in the grim dark future, there is only war. That's the tagline.
No, exactly. And but we're now getting creatives and writers who feel that no, that these should reflect them. Okay, it's like I'm not adding to it. It should be in my vision. And the problem is it denigrates these properties.
Yeah,
It
like
dilutes them.
you know,
And
like
so it confuses people who are just normal fans are like, why are we softening 40K? That makes zero sense. This is like the most harsh IP that it has ever been. I mean, it's just full on metal. You don't need to
yeah,
soften it.
it'd be like if like Berserk just became like a PG shonen anime with no blood.
Exactly. And then they're like, well, it was always this way, don't you know? Like,
Oh
I
yeah,
own
yeah,
DVDs.
Berserk, always that way. I
Yep.
read the early volumes. I that no, it was dark from the very beginning.
This kind of goes back. I was trying to bring up to Grums, and this is kind of the thing with news is it's so people are making this fundamental mistake. They think that if they can shout these things down and they can get them to fail, that maybe not them, but other companies in that industry will learn from it. And the sad truth is, my experience, I can speak at least to working in news. That is not the lesson people take away, unfortunately. They think, for example, when Gawker went down, do the people who talk were like, that means we should do more ethical journalism. No, that was not the lesson. No, it was we have to be safer. This is terrible to happen. Our friends, these good people, we know these people. They're good. They have a similar belief system that we do. It's that we have to be even more safe. We have to be even more corporate. And that's what's gonna happen. And people are like, when they're like, oh, I want Disney Star Wars to fail, because then all these other big companies will learn. No, that's
Well,
not the lesson
that's
they're
kind
gonna
of
take away.
like that was something I made a point recently, like that Star Wars actually got woker, like the more fans moved away,
Yeah, which is like, well, then
which
Pete.
to the point where now like everyone can use the Force now, like after Ahsoka.
Yeah.
That's how woke we've gotten. Like it's like that whole point, that whole balance to make sure like everything, like that was the whole reason midichlorians existed, that some people can use the Force and some can't. I know some people have hated that concept since the very thing, but if you think for a universe like this, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and there have to be reasonable limits for to have the suspension of belief. That you have to have believable limits and hard set rules, and you can tweak those some, but the farther you get away from it, the harder it is to believe in. It's why Last Jedi is an abomination because it breaks so many of the rules, and like people are like, well, that doesn't really matter. It's all make believe, but like, yeah, we know it's make believe, so make us believe. That sounds really dorky. Um, it's hard because what is the answer then? So if you shout Disney down, they come out with a terrible Star Wars project, and they don't learn from that. You ignore Disney, and they falls apart, and they don't learn from that. How do you make them learn? And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
That might be a
Well,
problem of human nature.
yeah, well, like, I feel like Disney has been ignoring people's criticism for so long and like, like even like this whole thing with the Nelson Peltz thing that they voted Iger back in. So like, they're going to have to just figure this on their own. I think we've done all we can for them. But like for like other things, like like Square Enix, like this whole thing with Capcom, like like the game, like the English game company, the Japanese game companies, and maybe even some Western ones, like we can like reach out to them and maybe like prevent them from going down the same road Disney did to that extent. Because like they're all pushing woke ideas, but not to the extent like Disney has been. Like Disney is just all set, all steam ahead. Like they pretty much conformed every single one of their brands to like there's no variety. Like Paramount has that awful Halo show, but they also have the Sonic live action franchise going for them.
Good point.
So like you have two different, they're both worked on by completely different people, but yet they get their money from the same source.
Yeah, I mean, the new Fallout show is also the same company that makes Rings of Power.
Exactly. Like, and the same company, Reacher. People like now. I know, like, there's been like some political controversy with Reacher, but like, I'm not really paying attention to that. But the thing is, like, people liked Reacher. That's the point. People like that show, even if they don't like the actor. I like the actor. I think he's a great actor.
Yeah, I'm like you, where I'm like, I just assume all actors and creatives are really weird. They're just really really weird people, and they're gonna say stupid things. It's like, I mean, obviously you have to have some kind of expectation. So like criminal, really bad immoral behavior, definitely criticize it. But other than that, I'm like, well, look, he's an actor. He's a weirdo.
Well,
He pretends to be another person for a living.
well, I don't know. I thought people were mad because he said something about Trump. I thought that was
I
it.
think it was a political thing, but that's my opinion on it. I'm just
Yeah. Well, I mean, like this whole thing with I know I'm not sure if I should like the whole did you hear about the this anime expo controversy?
I am following it somewhat. This isn't the same one where like a bunch of YouTubers that were going to get press passes weren't? Are we talking about
Oh, I know
a
it's
different one?
about again, this is like a convention that previously disinvited Vic Mangana over his accusations, but is now inviting Damian Mills, who also
Oh
has
yeah,
accusations.
and his accusations are way more credible.
Yeah, 'cause there's text messages and everything. I mean, like he literally like sent lawyers to like shut his accuser up.
The poor Vic. Vic is a really nice guy.
Yeah, I've met
He's a
him.
super nice guy.
I met him in New York City once, like like shortly, like what, before back when he was still like had his hearings still, like he did New York, like he was supposed to be in a convention that the guy bought like a um a place for him at a hotel because complications you know caused by the kick Vic people. And then like the line was so huge. I even met Super Saiyan Paul on that line, if
He
you're
is he
familiar.
is a he is a nice guy. I really like Vic. Like I try to keep an open mind about all the things they said. I don't find most of it credible, because there's no hard evidence. There's never hard evidence for any
There
of
is
this.
no hard evidence, and like if there was hard evidence, I don't think he'd have so many people defending him.
And he's had so many interactions with people. He's very personable, and so many people have had very intimate relationships with him. I think that's Vic's problem and I might have this problem a little bit, where he tries to be a very kind Christian. So that means serving others, and that means putting himself in position where if the other person has bad intentions, they could take advantage of you. I
Yeah.
kind of think that is his problem.
As a Christian myself, like I do feel like bad, but the thing is, I'm kind of like not him. Like if someone's giving me shit, I'm gonna do whatever I can to like make sure that this person doesn't like you know to an extent.
Yeah. But he does things like he'll call people, if like he'll call a fan if they're sick or some tragedy happened to their life, or he just wants to wish them a happy birthday.
That's
Uh,
nice. That's sweet.
Yeah, it is sweet, but the problem is in this, it unfortunately it lets people take advantage of that large amount of affection. which is too bad. And look, he's a bit of a weird guy. He'd probably admit to it too. But a lot of people are weird. Like, a lot of people are really weird. I mean, if you haven't learned anything from the internet yet, you should learn that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think we live in a society at the moment that tolerates people who are just who are really weird. They kind of have to fit in this very thin box, and
Yeah.
if they're weird, well, something worse must be happening. But what if there isn't? Maybe they're just really nice and really weird. Is that okay? But no, apparently not. So I like Vic. I had that one opportunity to interview him. I was setting up another one just a week or two ago, but I need to follow up on it.
Oh, cool.
He's a super busy guy. He's crazy busy. So like getting through to his emails is it's like it's hard. No, I like him. I like that a lot. I really respect someone like him. I'm religious too, as a religious person, that believes in Christ and following the teachings of Christ and trying to be that in my own personal life, model that sort of behavior. It isn't exactly easy.
It isn't. It isn't easy. Like, it's hard. Like, no one's a real saint. Like, and you can't always be like a nice person like to everyone, but you try and be good to whoever, to like, the people. If people are good to you, you be good to them.
Yeah. So I give lots of credit. I think people like that are amazing, and we need more of them. We don't need so much pessimism. We have enough of it.
Yeah,
we need
true.
some people who are genuinely nice and trying to do nice things for others.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah, sorry.
yes.
I know I can rant a lot. I apologize. I'm operating on like 4 hours of sleep because I'm trying to get my editor and I are trying to work on a review. I made the mistake of not a mistake, but I'm trying to get a game review out, but not just in article form, but video form, like both. Because like IGN does that, where they'll have an article review and then they'll have a video. It's basically like the article, but in video form. So we're trying to do that, but I cut the deadline too tight, so I'm like exhausted. So if I rant too much or anything, my apologies.
No, it's okay. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think. Like I had like topics. Yeah. Speaking of like Star Wars and like the bad game pricing, I know everyone's been like super focused on Star Wars Outlaws and how the protagonist looks. But my big like thing is just, why can't you play as the droid, and why are the special editions basically it's just an overly expensive season pass?
Yeah. And it is part of the thing where, and this goes back to Warhammer, it's like, where they're like, ha, the neckbeards are complaining, now there are women. And in the correct response, and this is a thing, Critical Drinker made this, and Asmund Gold, he watched the video, he did a nice react video to it. He said, this is a very good point. It's a very simple point, but it's a very good point. If it didn't matter, then why did you change that? And that is a fair question.
Oh, yeah, like when they make these character revisions, like if it didn't matter, like...
then why change it? Yeah. Because obviously it meant something enough that you were willing to go to this effort. So it doesn't make me the bad guy if I notice. I don't know. Ubisoft has many problems.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be good. I don't know. The 130 Ubisoft, their whole thing right now is they just want to get everyone on their subscription plan. And so I wonder, I don't have proof, but I wonder if they are charging these absurdly high rates in the hope that they will push more people into doing that, because it's like, I think it's like a $15 to $20 monthly charge, and then you get access to everything. And it's great.
Yeah.
I played
Game
AC
Pass
Valhalla.
model.
Yeah, I played AC Valhalla on it. I got everything. I mean, except for the microtransactions you have to pay, but like everything you would get like digital collector's edition, you get it all unlocked. It's wonderful. I'm a terrible person for doing it, because it's like, this is encouraging not so great behavior, Peter, but it was cheap.
Yeah, that's a thing, like, because like it is like really expensive. I'm trying to pull up the graphic of what you actually get with the highest thing. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, the
So,
Jabba's palace. I love the
oh
Jabba's
yeah, the
palace
job is.
bit.
Oh yeah, like that's like you have. I think you need to get the season pass in order to even get the Jabba mission, and they show the Jabba mission in the trailer.
Yeah, and it's so funny because the reaction was, and then some websites actually went with it, and it was like, this is ridiculous, because they're like, it's been debunked, and the response Ubisoft has as well, you will still be able to play. There will still be Java missions you can play. You can't play this Java mission, but you'll get to play other Java missions. That was
Will
like
you?
the yeah, well, no, but they were like, the problem was, we're not going to get to play any Java missions. No Java missions at all. No, the problem was, it was like content that was it ready for launch, and then you cut it off and you made it DLC. That's the problem. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
well, I will die if I do not get to play this game with Java. Jabba the Hutt I live for. No, that was not the issue, Ubisoft, and you know it. But
So
I
let's see
PR
the
people, they'll make you laugh
Golden
sometimes.
Edition. Also, so they have you can actually get Han and Lando's outfits respectively as part of DLC. Nothing against that, like, but I'm just saying, like, it's just a lot to come out with like all this DLC for a story-based game right off the bat.
Yeah, it is. I know these things, and they can get so expensive too.
Yeah, like so I got the Final Fantasy 16 collector's edition, but that came with like a giant statue and a digital blood sword you can't get anywhere else besides that really expensive collector's edition. It was
Physical
like a lot.
collectors.
It was a lot of money for a collector's edition, but I get to see that Ifrit statue all the time, so I think it was a good investment.
Yeah, I wish I had bought like the FF 7 Rebirth physical
Oh
with
yeah, yeah.
my
That one
Sephiroth.
was I think the same price, but that one came with a Sephiroth statue.
Looks good. I love all that kind of stuff. I wish I had the money for it.
Yeah.
Digital collector's editions are weird. Like, I don't always understand the justification there. But like, and you get this, and you get access to a special manual, and you get access to. It's funny, some of these games that comes with their digital collector's edition. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, $75,
Well,
$80
I got the digital
seems like a
deluxe
lot.
edition for Stellar Blade for the outfit. I didn't because I'm not sure if there was a physical deluxe edition for the game.
Yeah, I saw some people were playing the game already because it released in Korea. So, but they have to play it with Korean subtitles in
Uh,
Korean.
well, I
So,
know like apparently people are like replaying like the demo, like with it, like the demo is like breaking like all sorts of play records. That's pretty like you don't really see that with demos. Normally demos are pretty basic. I have not yet played the demo yet.
no, it look. I don't know. I think I will play it. I haven't played the demo either. That kind of action game isn't normally my thing. I like played Elden Ring. I really
But
did
yeah,
enjoy
see,
Elden
like that's
Ring.
the thing. I prefer like action games over like Souls games, which are like I don't know, they frustrate me. But I know
Yes.
that's like kind of the appeal. Like they're supposed to be frustrating.
No, exactly. I get that enough in life. I don't need to. I don't need to seek it out. I have
I
enough
do I
frustration.
did enjoy. I did get like I did get pretty. I got a. I don't know. I think there's more to the game. I don't know how much. I got up to the factory in Liza P. I'm not sure if you played that.
I have. That is a really good looking game. I'm terrible at though. I'm really not. See, I'm very. This is why Elden Ring was great, because you could play Magic, and Magic made it way easier.
Yeah,
So
there's no
then I could
magic in
coast
Liza
through.
P.
Yeah, there isn't. There isn't. I really should try at these. I should really try these kind of games some more, because there's so many good ones. There's like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. I hear that game is amazing, but I can barely make it through like the first two or three bosses, and I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, I remember when that game was all the rage. Yeah, I also I want to play. I did get Bloodborne when it was on sale. I want to play that just for like the setting and aesthetics.
Do you think it's weird that, and obviously the single player games are doing just fine, but they are completely dwarfed by games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, whatever. What is the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah, like the multi.
Mudahar always talks about like CS:GO, like the sheer number of people playing these games. FIFA, I guess that's not exactly the same thing as
Yeah,
Fortnite. It
or like
completely,
even just something like Genshin Impact.
yeah, it completely dwarfs like what you or me are playing usually, and
Yeah,
it's
the
so weird to think
demand.
of that. Like there's this whole other we are in the smaller part of the games industry. Like the stuff we like is like so smaller, so much smaller compared to that.
Well, I mean, like I don't know, like people get invested. I only guess it's because people get like invested in the stuff they collect and earn in these games. That like and like the Call of Duty competitive scene is always like been very like enthusiastic. People have been like very competitive since like the beginning with Call of Duty, and that's why like for the longest time Activision was able to release like almost the same game with the same multiplayer like year after year.
That used to be the dream. Before the current dream where it's infinite money, you just click the button, you just get money. Used to be we'll just keep shoveling these things out and make money every year. And I didn't think that it would come to a point where like, you know what? That actually was okay. We could go
Yeah.
back to that.
I mean, like what did like that era of Call of Duty? It gave us Black Ops One. It gave us World at War.
I love to play all the weird Call of Duties that came out for the inferior consoles, like Call of Duty on DS. I just thought that was so. It was.
Oh, did you ever play Call of Duty on PSP?
I did not.
Oh yeah, that was fun. It has a really good airplane mission where you play as a nose gunner.
So stuff like that was just so cool because it's like, how are they going to fit this huge franchise of this tiny little, like this much smaller box? And what came out was always like so creative and interesting. Like I remember when they came out when Guitar Hero was big. They came out with a Nintendo DS version of Guitar Hero, and it only had like five instead of six. Is it six? Is it six? I think it's
I think the
six on your
original had
standard.
5 buttons.
Okay, so it's down just to the 4 or 5 buttons, and that's it. But it was just like this works. It's impressive. It's interesting. I love that kind of thing. I feel like we kind of miss out on some of that stuff, but that's just technology moving on.
Yeah, like I'm definitely like missing like some of the things we used to get with like older games. Like even just like genre variety, like like I said, like Sony, like all they have to do like to solve their genre variety problem is just make like knack 3, and then you have like something different than an open world third person or one of these walking hallway sims.
Yeah, yeah, no, and not every game needs to be. It's okay to make smaller games. I know everyone says that, but what I've heard from people, developers, is like you need to understand the risk reward ratio, and unless they feel now that unless it's a more guaranteed success, it's very hard to do these
Well, that's the
projects.
same problem that the film industry has. Everything needs to be an established IP or it's risky.
Yeah, game industry, that film industry too. That's interesting. A number of like way more people have opinions about it than actually any of the people that work in it. Which is okay. That's okay. People can have opinions.
Well, everyone likes movies.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you feel positive about the future, like gaming, entertainment? Do you think like things are like getting better? Are you optimistic person? Or are you one of these more
I
pessimistic?
lean optimistic. I think things will eventually get better. It's just about when. The things aren't certainly not getting like. I think some ways things are getting like a lot better in terms of like wokeness dominating culture. I think that's getting better, but like with some of these like shitty business practices, that's not really like getting better. Like some of these monetization schemes that the
Oh,
companies
they're
are trying to
awful.
make.
No, they suck. They're awful. I hate it. I hate all this kind of stuff. I hate the very idea that we're just going to try to wring more money out of people. That's kind of my feeling about like a lot of the anti-woke stuff like Daily Wire, they come out with their new, oh, people are talking about beer. Here's our cheap crappy beer. People are
Oh,
complaining about woke chocolate.
my
Here's some expensive,
yeah, the blackjack and hookers approach to
Yeah, but it's minus, yeah, exactly, but it's not, it's like, but it's minus the blackjack and hookers. It's like, no, actually we're going to release a worse version than the Moon theme park. And unfortunately a number of people do lap it up. I am seeing more people push back against it because the grift is so much more obvious now than it used to be, but
yeah, it's like
it's definitely
when Matt
unfortunately the
Walsh
problem.
tried to get into Gamergate too, everyone was like, "No, go away."
That's right. They're like, weren't you just calling us like incels last week
Yeah,
for
it's like just saying you're
what?
saying anime was satanic and shit. It's like,
Yeah, and
go
he's
away,
like,
Matt Walsh.
go away. We don't want you. That was great. That made
Yeah.
me happy to see. I was like, okay, maybe this, because that was the problem with. I'm not with GamerGate, but it was obvious to see the problem with GamerGate 1 was that it got kind of taken over by uh, certain people. I think what was the guy at Breitbart? Milo.
Milo Yiannopoulos.
Milo, and then the problem with it, I mean, among many problems, it gave the other side a figurehead that they could then attack. And that was I was like, well, if Matt Walsh for these new people, if he is associated with it, then they know who to go after.
Oh yeah,
And that's
no, I just can't like Matt Walsh would like take like the whole Gamergate 2 thing and then he'd just like make it into anti-video games and then like put like 90s like 90s like right Christian values like onto
yeah,
gaming like, something.
yeah, that's
Cuz
Grum's.
oh yeah,
That's
what
kind of
about Grums?
similar. Grimm's I'm similar because it's like he is providing because like now they have a target, right? So when it
Yeah,
was
well,
just
yeah, that's he seems to be like he wants to make himself a target. It seems, and I'm not really sure. Like my approach is I'll talk about things, but like if someone like gets mad about it, I'll just like, hey, hey, I'm just giving my opinion. Why are you getting so mad, bro? Like and then whereas like Grums is like he's deliberately trying to make enemies.
yeah, and I'm not I don't want to go so far as saying it's just a grift or he doesn't believe it. That doesn't seem quite fair. I think he is
Oh,
very
no,
passionate
I
about his
think he's
beliefs.
genuine. Like, I mean, he
Yeah.
worked on World of Warcraft. He's definitely like he's a gamer through and through. I think.
But you do have to wonder if having a figurehead is a good thing or not. Or does that mean now they
Well,
can know where to aim the hammer?
well, the one thing I like about Cabrutus is that like he's very chill and he's very humble.
It
So in
helps.
that way, he's good.
Yeah, no. Look, it's maybe it's totally possible I'm wrong. And actually you do need a central leader and you do need a big voice to help guide the sheep. And I could be wrong about all this.
Well, yeah,
I don't think
well,
so, but it's possible.
I mean, like you don't need a leader per se, but like the thing is like another thing is like they always like to discredit a movement they go after like the bad actors, like so like the people that go way too far and then they
Yeah.
focus on them.
Yeah, so now I mean, it was actually a pretty good video that I watched yesterday. I'm trying to think of the guy. He did a wonderful video on Emil Pagrulia, who's one of the Bethesda writers, and he talked about how basically all these charges were made up on Reddit and then YouTube picked it up. But he just did a video on Gamergate too. It's a good video. It's like an hour and a half. I didn't agree with all of it, but he made some good points. Yeah. Um, I've seen it on people on Twitter, especially some game journals, and they're talking about they're working on pieces about Grumps, and they're mentioning that this about Grumps, and it's just like it's obvious where all this is going to lead to. Maybe it doesn't matter because no one trusts the game journals anymore. But I don't know. I don't think it's helpful. I think how movements work. I think all that kind of stuff is interesting. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Unfortunately, I am short on answers, so it's hard to
yeah,
say
and
if something
I'm
works or not.
still pretty new at all this, like so I'm still like kind of like the new kid on the block as far as like commentary is concerned. But
I guess, sorry to cut you off so much, Dash. I was just gonna say my experience, my more real world experiences working in disability advocacy, health and disability reporting. My experiences with like the right to access medical treatment. So if you have a
well, that's
complex
good.
illness, yeah,
You know, as
and
someone
what
with disabilities, like, yeah, I think that's great.
I didn't realize you did struggle with some disabilities, Dash.
I do have disabilities. I just don't like put them on my bio.
Okay, that's probably wise. People aren't always the nicest about it. I was gonna say my experience in the disability movement. People are like, if you inject politics into it, right? And you have, because in politics, if you want to get ahead as a politician, you have to have a wedge issue. So you have to have something that you can, push into and say, hey, this is broken. This is awful. Look at this. And then you come up with a solution. Hey, here's why you could have me. But my experience when it came to dealing with the disability movement was getting political didn't help. It actually hurt. Getting very thistly, thorny, uh, all that kind of stuff that you might see, the outrage machine, the kind of stuff you see on social media. Well, for the disability movement was unhelpful because, and maybe it was because maybe this is just too small. And so you have to always be appealing to the greater masses, right? We're small, we're insular, we only have so much reach. So whenever we're putting out information, we need to convince these people. And so my experience in that persuasion, being positive, being clear and direct, not getting into name calling or attacking if you can do it. Definitely not infighting. That makes a huge, huge difference. And while it seems like, well, why don't we get political? Because it doesn't help. Because on the off chance, say one of the two parties pick it up, there's like no proof that they're actually going to do anything on it. And this is kind of the problem where this isn't related to gaming at all, but with the disability movement, the problem is right now we're having is there are organizations that cover disability at the national scene. The Democrat Party has it part of its platform, but no one actually does anything on it because it's just one of many issues, and it kind
Yeah,
of
it's
always
just
gets,
a talking point. It's like superficial, and that's partly why
yeah.
I don't really, like I noticed, like, when I realized that people with disabilities are kind of like part of the like, kind of like the protected like bracket that like, the left wants to appeal to. Like, I thought like maybe I could like I noticed like, people putting like their disabilities and, their cognitive disabilities on their bios, like almost like, like people would put their sexuality on their bio. And I'm like, yeah, like maybe like, if I was a different person, I could leverage that, and I don't.
But it's from those experiences that I'm coming to all this with gaming, with nerd culture, the outrage wars, because like I kind of have an understanding of what did and didn't work for me and for the people I was following and covering, and so there are certain things that work and there are certain things that just do not appeal to each other. And not have so like with Matt Walsh, it's like not having a strong man. Having a strong man isn't necessarily a good thing.
Well,
Having
he's
this,
disingenuous.
yeah,
He was being disingenuous because, and he had already given his real opinion on pop culture already. He hates it.
right.
So like, so like, yeah, and like, he said it pretty recently before, like, trying to come off as our friend.
Exactly. So it's like all that experience. That's kind of how I've been looking at this. So it's like certain things work, certain things don't, and that's why when I feel like I criticizing or looking at, I feel like these things are helpful, these things are not, and it's hard. But people don't really want to hear it. Neither
Well,
side, by the way, neither side really wants to hear it.
Well, like one of the things like I wanted to do with this channel was to like, like really like be like kind of like an outlet. So because what I saw with like, a lot of people that watch like a lot of like the big channels, like, I actually like I used to be like a big geeks and gamers like fan, and I moved away because like, the coverage got too repetitive, it just got too angry, nothing was good. Like, and so like, I wanted to do something like, so like I didn't really know what direction the channel was going to go in. I just decided like maybe I want to be a VTuber. and then like the commentary stuff worked, and so did gaming. So I latched onto both.
No, and I like the stuff you do, and you do it well.
Thank you.
But
I
it's,
appreciate it.
I guess my interest is, and I think a lot of people, it's like when they hear someone like the people at Geeks and Gamers, they're thinking these people care about the same things I do and they want change. And I can't, maybe they do want change. I don't know. But
Well, I think they did, at least at one point. Like, my frustration with that like group is that they became more focused on their own platform than like the stuff they tend to care about. Like Jeremy went from a guy who loves Star Wars to a guy who actively hates like all entertainment now, almost, because of like personal slights to him, like the whole Zack Snyder thing.
yeah, no, I do remember that. I mean, Zack Snyder was kind of rude. I'll admit to it.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
wasn't
it
very
was
nice.
that was not that was yeah, that was yeah, like he did not handle that well at all, even if that wasn't his intention.
But people make the mistake all the time. They think, well, this guy's on my side, so obviously they want to see action. But I don't think many people who are influencers, YouTubers, even journalists, I don't necessarily think they do want things to change.
Yeah, like that's my concern as well. I genuinely want things to actively change because like, I want to enjoy things.
No, exactly. Because it's like when we start was like my ideal is like before Culture Wars, where like anyone could like Star Wars, anyone could go to D&D night. Anyone. We're all friends. You go. I love it. You would go to anime conventions. I live in the Midwest, and you probably you might see a few familiar faces, but maybe it's mostly completely strangers, and we don't talk about politics. Religion doesn't come up. Hygiene isn't very good. A lot of people who are probably a little bit autistic, or they're um excuse me uh, they're introverts. They're not very outgoing people necessarily. But it was great because you could go this thing and we would all we'd all love Haruhi, and then they would have someone would do a group of people had learned the Haruhi dance, or Haruhi, I'm sure that's how you're supposed to say it. And it was just fantastic. It was fantastic. It was beautiful and wonderful. And then this current world we're living where it's like, well, that person said this thing, and they're a Republican. They vote for Trump. They're a Trump supporter, so you can't talk to them anymore. All that stuff is friggin' ridiculous. It's friggin' ridiculous. So
Yeah,
I just want it to go away, and I want to go back to
yeah,
the
yeah. Screw
2000s.
cancel culture. Screw like this team sport political bullshit. Like I just want to have fun.
Yeah, and I think that's actually where and this is where, while I am generally pessimistic, I think, and I was checking out Reddit, so I went to KIA, which is kind of considered, I guess, the Gamergate subreddit, and it is
Kotaku in
very
action. Oh
pessimistic
yeah, I
there.
used to post some of my videos there, though their posting rules are kind of strict. Like you have to be the first one, and you can't like do videos on Twitter. Like say no Twitter nobodies. That's like the big rule. And like a lot of my videos are commentaries on tweets.
And while I'm very pessimistic about many things, I think that they are wrong on this, because I do think the message of going back to the 2000s, letting everyone be normal, for the vast majority of humans, at least in the West, that's what they want to. Now, we don't agree on how to get there. And we get a little crazy in when it comes to election time. But I genuinely think that is the winning message, and I think slowly yet surely it does make a difference, because you see things that go really popular and they don't have a particular political edge. Fallout, for example, which just came out, everyone's loving it. Fallout 76, which is, in my opinion, not a very good game, is selling like gangbusters. But that's the power of it. That's just the
Even
raw
wait,
power of it.
Fallout 76 is selling well now.
Yeah,
Even with the stigma, I know like it's probably
yeah.
been patched like and fixed.
Yeah. You have to look up the article. I
Yeah.
forget. It's
Would you
like
recommend
it's.
it?
I don't know if I would recommend it. I don't know if I'd go that far.
Yeah, well, I'm
I
fine. I'm doing New Vegas for the channel right now. I never played it as much as 3. I never actually got far in it at all, and I know it's like so beloved. So like yeah, like the Fallout show has been good for my channel just because like the general interest in Fallout is up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
here's a
yeah, the
stat for
Fallout
you.
show is pretty good. I like it. I know some people have some lore gripes with it, but genuinely it was really good. I didn't like the Maximus character at the start. I think he got became a better character. Once like you kind of realize, but like I didn't really know where they were going with that character. Like if
Yeah,
is he
he's kind
supposed
of
to
a
be
crazy
amoral?
person.
Is he supposed to be like
Yeah.
because like the second episode, like he lets that guy die.
To be fair, the guy was threatening to like, when we get back, they'll kill you. I'm like, don't tell him that. That's unhelpful. We're like, I'm gonna die unless you help me. By the way, if you help me, I'm gonna kill you tomorrow. Like, oh, that doesn't. What? No, don't do
Yeah.
that. No, this is a great stat. So this is like, I don't know the website Gaming Bolt, but I saw a few different stats like this, and he said Fallout. So for example, uh, the headline for Fallout 4. This isn't Fallout 76. I have to find one for Fallout 6. But Fallout 4 was the best-selling game in Europe last week, with sales up 7,500%. But it was increases for all the games. I think all of the
Oh
Fallout
yeah, all the
games.
games have like seen an increase on Steam, and like they're Bethesda put out sales on every platform that sells Fallout games. Like I think those sales are even still going.
It's crazy. But that's the thing though. See, people do want good quality stuff that just is kind of separate from everything else. Our everyone agrees our real lives kind of suck right now. That's why
Yeah,
we enjoy
absolutely.
fiction.
Times are tough.
That's why fiction is wonderful, and it's like, well, that it's an escapist fantasy. Why do you? That's so beneath. No, you need to understand. That's what we
Yeah, that's
want.
what
That's
we
why we use
want.
it.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want like other worlds. We want to escape like, our routines, like, our troubles and we just want to have fun. And that's why Helldivers is so great. Like I'm finding more people that actually have the game now. So I'm hoping link up. I know my friend, another VTuber, Spartan Flash. I need to I just found out he plays Helldivers, so I definitely got to play with him sometime.
Yeah, no, that's another example. It's like, no, people do want this. So even if it feels like, the world of the loudmouths, or the world of politics, you're not making a difference. It is making a
Oh,
huge
I
difference in a
tune like
greater world.
most national politics out like a lot. Like I'll talk about it with my father sometimes, but like and maybe I'll slip up on Twitter sometimes, not nearly as much as I used to since I became a VTuber. I try to keep things focused on like entertainment, and if like if entertainment and politics intersect, I'll discuss it. But like I won't talk about like Biden or Trump or too much unless I really slip up or if I get pissed.
I've made that mistake myself plenty of times. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but no, like I've become way more comfortable. Like the more support I get, like of just being upfront with people.
So while I'm pessimistic about many things, I think long term the culture will veer back in that direction. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
me
know what
too.
else. I don't know if anything else is going to get better. I don't know if news will recover. I don't know where the state of the country, any of that will go. But I do know that when it comes to the cultural imagination of the people of the Western world, it will get better. And you could see it by the huge growth in anime. You can huge love of manga. There is a desire for good culture, and where there's good culture, it is flourishing. So that tells me that people do want that kind of stuff. They do want to go back to that world. So there is hope. I know it's really easy to get pessimistic because it's like, oh great, now another DEI project, now another franchise I once loved is been taken over by the crazies. And I get that, but big picture, we the reason why they are doing that so much is because they know that their argument is losing, and so they
Well,
have
yeah,
to do
it
that
is
kind of thing.
definitely like losing. It's not as popular as it was like 2 or 3 years ago, even. like I
No,
see it. I definitely like see it. Like you could just tell with like some of the like like the fact that like I mean Hogwarts Legacy, not that great a game, but like it sold like really well despite like all the like the negative campaign against it. Like, it's like, I think if that's proof that like, things are like, people just want to have fun. That's all they want.
yeah,
You don't have to like make everything like about like some cause or something. Like, it's like people want to escape reality and enjoy like a story and lore, and like that's why like I get why like they're upset about this whole female custodian thing, because of like some people like have even said they would have been fine with it if they had just introduced it in a better way, like
no,
instead of just like gaslighting everyone saying oh this was always the lore.
yep. It was always this way. I don't think it was. Let me check. No, it wasn't.
There's this funny YouTube community post going around about like the orc custodian that was always there.
Oh man, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I, I I don't know if the established franchise, like I don't know what's going to happen with those, honestly. Like, can Star Wars, can Doctor Who, can these things be saved, or have they had their limit? I don't know. I
well,
I
I mean,
I just I have no clue.
I think Mandalorian proved you can have like some canon destructive thing like the sequel trilogy, and then make a rebound,
Do
and
you?
then you can completely torpedo that by firing one of the key actors over. But that's another story.
That is another story.
But like no, like Mandalorian 1 and 2, like I think that was pretty like unifying, even with like the Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I hope they can't, because like I love Doctor Who, right? And I foolishly, and I deserve all
Yeah, I've been
criticism.
hearing about like I've heard about the Timeless Child and what that's done to the lore.
Because I thought, well, Russell T Davies, who led the reboot of the series in 2005, so that's how we got Christopher Eccleston, the new
Yeah,
show.
Christopher Elect is as the Ninth Doctor. He's underrated. I love the
Yeah,
Ninth Doctor.
yeah. So I thought, well, he's coming back. He knows what it's take. He's gonna do the right thing. No, he did not do the right thing.
Oh,
It's sad. I feel so stupid because I was so hoping that he would restore. He'd be like, we need to go back to basics. They had brought David Tennant. They got David Tennant, everyone's favorite modern doctor. Even he came back, and it was just a
oh,
cluster mess.
I heard like,
It was
oh,
bad.
what are your pronouns? I'm sorry.
It was so bad. It was awful.
Yeah. And what about Donna insulting like
I,
him? Like Donna would never say what she said to
yeah,
him
no,
like that.
exactly. Because that's like her close friend. She
No, oh
knows
yeah,
what he's
like
been
after
through.
everything they've been through, like yeah, maybe like at the start of their relationship that she was a bit rude to him, but like not by like the later season. Like no, like Martha was like respected the doctor a lot towards the end, and even with like just like my vague memories of like her run, like I remember I don't know. I think like they separate ways because I don't know, the Daleks did something to her brain, and then like the doctor had to like leave or else it would hurt her or something.
Yeah, they had the I forget what they called it. Yeah, it was where, because the regeneration energy in the hand that he had put aside so he could stay in that form had merged with her, and so they're like an extra doctor that was part human, and then she kind of became part Time Lord, at least mentally. But then it would fry her if she had access to that, so he had to erase her memories, send her on her way. So it had that tragic. It was like it had that tragic ending, but it gave it a certain appeal, like it felt masterful and artistic and interesting, and so kind of messing with it probably wasn't wise. But then to go ahead and handle it the way they did with like where she's like, well, obviously you would have known how to solve this problem if you were a woman, but you were a man, so you didn't. I was like, what?
Oh my
What?
god.
What
Talk
garbage is
about a
this?
bait and
What is
switch.
this?
Oh
And it
man.
makes no sense because 5 minutes ago, he was just a woman. He was a woman like 5-10 minutes ago. It's like, what? It didn't occur to him then? Like, what is this?
No freaking way.
Oh, it'll drive you up.
Oh
It's
my
insane.
god.
It's so
That's
bad.
awful. That's awful writing.
It is. It's so bad. It is. So. I love Doctor Who, but I don't know if it's salvageable. I
Man.
hope it is. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I think it is part of Doctor Who canon that besides the fixed points, time could be like completely like altered and stuff. So like maybe like all this maybe there'll be like some retcon, and then we'll have a new line of doctors at some point.
I was hoping there'd be a little bit of that with RTD, but he wasn't willing to go there at all. I don't know. Maybe because a lot of people, because my podcast I started with the help of the nice people at Bain Books Publishing. So they're a small sci-fi imprint of Simon Schuster, which basically means that they're a book publisher of science fiction books, but they technically have a connection to a large organization. So like their
Yeah.
books will appear in Barnes and Nobles. The authors I've interviewed there, they cross the line. They don't really think any of this can be saved, and really the best idea is just to make new stuff. I'm sure you've heard that plenty from like YouTubers and stuff.
I would love some new stuff, to be quite honest. I would absolutely love some new stuff, but like, we hardly get new stuff because like these corporations are so risk averse that they don't want to but and that's why like I was really like supportive of like Rebel Moon as like being a Star Wars alternative, but then like it got like such negative reception, and now no one's even like talking about like the second movie that just came out. I actually just put it on, I have to watch it all for a full opinion, but like it's definitely not being marketed as hard as the first one.
Yeah, it's hard to sell people because we have all gotten used to going to these big franchises, these tent poles. It's hard to tell people, well, go read this book that no one else has ever heard. Go read this, and these books are often amazing. They're like, some of them are very, very good, but I don't know how big the readership for any of these things actually is. And there's not a great path for building a popularity, or like ramping that up. So I don't know. People say that. That's like when they say like, well, we need to make more AA games.
Well, I think
And
like
I'm like, how?
the way it happens, like I think a lot is that like something has a really positive buzz, and then a franchise is built on top of that buzz. So like yeah, it's very hard to make organically happen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you,
I would like for more new original things to take off. Like I would like to see like Sony like make a new franchise, like, and maybe like something like creative like Ape Escape or something like that. Like that isn't just like, just trying to leech off the MCU with like a
yeah.
series of Wolverine games and Marvel games, like even as interest in superhero stuff is like dying.
Yeah, Sony's brilliant move was we're just gonna make everything like the Avengers. That's what people want. Bad move.
Oh my god.
Poor Square Enix. They should have shelled out the money to get the likenesses. They should have. It would have been so different if they actually.
I don't. Do you really think that would have saved their Avengers game?
It might. If it had come out like a year earlier, also, like if it had been closer towards the height.
Well, I know they sold the studio, but did you play the Guardian Square Enix game? That was pretty good.
I don't think I have. Wait. What's it called?
It's called Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, I did play. I did play the Guardians of the Galaxy game. That is very good. It's not very
Yeah,
long
I
though.
like the team huddle like stuff, and
It's
the
good.
one per 9% chance you'll get rickrolled.
I love the comics. See, when Guardians of the Galaxy got adapted, I felt that was like that's kind of a weird book series to turn into, turn into an MCU film. But of course, James Gunn made it work, and then the kind of everything went in that image. But I thought the game was awesome because I think it pulled more from the comics and less from the film. So I was really happy with that. Like the Gamora of the game looks like kind of gnarly and savage instead of kind of like the more streamlined, softer looking Gamora in the film, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah, and I noticed Mantis was really different in that game than she was in the MCU. She could like see the future and stuff. I don't think she can in the MCU.
No, yeah, MCU version of these, because like in the comics, like some of them are like galaxy level powerful, like a bunch of them are. They're like really powerful characters, some of them. Whereas in the MCU, they're like, they're not street level. Like, well, they kind of are. I mean, they're like street level with like sci-fi tech, but whereas in the comics, they're some of them are at that level, but some of them are like they can go one on one with Thanos. It's just different. It's just different. It's just different. Are you a comic? Are you a comic
Uh,
consumer,
uh
Dash?
Honestly, I'm more manga. They just eat more stream more easier to get into. Like
Yeah.
comics, you have to know like all these years of history and stuff. I've tried reading like comic, like some comics, like but like then like they expect you to know like like certain things about the Marvel universe that
Yeah. If you want
yeah.
something,
So I prefer manga in
no,
that
manga's
regard.
good. That's where all the energy is now. Like there aren't that. I don't think there are that many
Well, I
comic
mean,
book
it's just
readers left.
it's easier. Like you don't need to like need to study a wiki to understand like a 30-page like comic. You just like you read just everything's like one continuous story. Like the series I'm reading right now is Kaiju no 8, which just got an anime adaptation that's actually being streamed on X at 10 a.m.
Mm.
every Saturday, and then it's going to Crunchyroll or something. But it's like the first anime to be like streamed on X.
I'm one of these terrible people who finds manga based on popular anime. I admit to it. So I wish I was one of these better manga readers who start with the manga and like search out and like they're
Well,
manga people.
that's how I find a lot of my stuff too. But like this just so happens that like I got into the manga before the anime was announced. Yeah,
It
because
is.
apparently the sales like it had the manga had good sales like. And so far, the anime apparently has pretty good reception. So a lot of people are probably discovering this franchise for the first time. It's a very like interesting concept of like of a human like a humanoid kaiju
It's been
and
really
like
cool.
yeah
Sorry.
yeah
I was just gonna say, I think it's so cool because if I was a teenager, I would say, well, in 15, 20 years, you need to understand this is gonna be like the most popular thing ever. Like you will go to Barnes and Nobles and the
oh yeah
entire comic
the
section.
shelves man the shelves they get a new one every year.
It's I love it. I hate many things about this timeline, but that part of our timeline where like manga and anime are like the biggest the biggest thing going in entertainment.
They
That
earned
is
it.
really cool. I like that.
They earned it, man.
It is funny though. The comic book YouTube is funny because for years they got attention because they would read these terrible comics, and then at some point people even got tired of that. So now comic book YouTube is just so despondent. But it's hard to blame them. they would do all kinds of funny things. I mean, comic books have been falling apart for a long time, and they would play all kinds of games to massage the numbers. They'd be like, "Well, you need to understand most comic book sales are there with children. They're at Scholastic," and then finally that's been broken apart. So we find out this year that comic book sales in general are way down, but comic book sales proper, only about 10% of them are actually comics. 90% of them are like Scholastic books. So, and Scholastic books can be anything from a coloring book to something that's kind of like a graphic novel to just,
Yeah, and
if
how
you
many of those just get bought up by like schools and libraries?
exactly, exactly. And so it's like no one cares about what's happening in comics. Like absolutely no one.
Well, pretty much the only comic book series I hear any buzz about are the Sonic the Hedgehog comics from IDW, and IDW is like on the verge of bankruptcy
They
even with
are
that.
because they put Heather Antos in charge, who had almost zero publishing experience. Almost. She was an assistant editor for years, but we don't know if she contributed very much.
Wait,
And
I
they
thought
just
she was a
put her in
writer.
charge. She was a writer, yeah. She started as an editor, she moved into a writer, but it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick like anything she's greatly known for as a
But yeah,
writer.
how do you go from being a writer to like being in charge of publishing? That is nepotism right
It is
there.
nepotism. It's got. I mean, it's. They're just like you could have picked like so many better people. But anyhow, she got put in charge, and the IDW has just kind of fallen apart since, which is too bad because IDW and Image were considered like the alternatives. Like they used to be like you're not for DC and Marvel. Go to IDW and Image, and now IDW and Image are falling apart too.
Well, I part of my past is I used to be like a really big brony in college, so I'd get a lot of the IDW My Little Pony comics, and they were actually really good.
It's okay. I've enjoyed. I did watch the cartoon. I wasn't like super into it, but I thought that cartoon was nice enough.
Yeah,
My
I like the second season the best. I fell off. I got bored with it around the sixth season, and then like I know it had a couple more season after that, but I think like it had pretty good seasons.
my uncle, he collects Warhammer. He's really big into 40K, and he collects all that stuff. He's also a huge brony. I always find that
Your
interesting.
uncle's a brony.
Yeah, he is a brony. He is a brony, and he's into four. I always thought that's kind of
Oh,
those two
you'd
things are
be
really
surprised.
different.
Like one of the most popular brony fanfics is called Fallout Equestria.
Really?
Yeah, it has like several books, like and other several spin-offs and stuff. It's like a whole like Fallout like series in the My Little Pony universe. I never read it.
Oh, dude, it's so weird. You miss things like because I thought bronies, all that kind of stuff was kind of cringe, but it was relatively pretty
Well, I mean, it
positive.
started on 4chan to be precise. Like, yeah, like some of the bronies there were different. Not all the bronies were the same. Like everyone had different like interests and reasons for liking the show, but really like what united everyone was that it was a pretty good written kids show for its time. At a time when cartoons were really on decline. That's where like the real appeal came.
It seems so innocent now. Like, and then have you ever tracked like what happened to some of the people that were like the guy that put together the Brony convention? What
Oh
happened to
yeah,
him?
Purple Tinker. My friend of mine actually knew him.
Oh wow, really?
He's a big, the guy who converted me to bronyism. So
I like
yeah,
how you
so
put that. It's like joining like a
a
like
cold.
a cult.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So he knew the guy. So like when that name came up, I was like, oh my god, like my friend mentioned this guy to me, like so like. And then, like, when I found out, like, this person had taken part in, like, some horrible cancel culture bullshit, like, over their trans identity, I was like, oh my God. Like, yeah, so I did. That person only ran the convention, I think, 1 year, and then it got taken over or bought out by another group. So, like, he ran the one that was in Jersey that I went to like first, like one of my first years of college, and then the ones in Baltimore were run by a different group.
Yeah, he was in the. There was a Netflix documentary I remember
Yeah,
that he
yeah,
was one of the
yeah.
featured
John
characters.
Delancey's documentary, like that mostly focused on that early convention, like because some of the footage is from that early convention, so that would be when Purple Tinker was in charge.
Those wonderful youths so much optimism, so much hope. They had no idea.
Well, I don't know like too much, but apparently, like this person had like gotten semi canceled in the Brony community, like over other stuff. Like all this like dirty laundry came out when that when Limited Run did what they did to that girl who's now working for Eric July.
Yeah, Kara Blinn. I don't know. That's right. Yeah, yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, it was really like ridiculous, like just how quickly they folded to this guy.
That is a great. That's like a great example of like pre-culture war world, post-culture war world.
Yeah.
Because it's like, wait, the guy that the brony guy, he's now trying to cancel people. The guy that's like, you should be loving and accepting everyone.
Oh
Now
yeah,
he's
well,
like,
even a lot of bronies will tell you like the love intolerance thing really did not last very, very long, and very few bronies actually lived by it. Yeah. Oh, what's so funny? Arc Warhammer is actually playing a MLP mod for some like Civ game. Like I don't know what it's called, but it's funny. I know like he did a lore dump video as an April Fool's joke explaining the changeling invasion of Canterlot, which is pretty funny because like that's like one of my favorite moments. Also part of season 2, my favorite season. So like the fact that Arc is like this, this big Warhammer, but it is like I think he might actually be a secret brony, which
it's
is
possible. What happened? What happened to the show? Because I remember at one point it was really popular, and then there was
well
like
it ended. It had a final season and it ending, and then they went on to Gen 5, and to leech on the popularity they made it a continuation of Friendship is Magic, but only like kind of like a soft reboot of the same settings, and it's just not none of the writers are gone, different animation, it's just there. So like some of the bronies tried to hype up this Gen 5, and really like the Gen 4 is just better. Like the iteration that spawned the bronies with Lauren Faust, like the co-creator of the Powerpuff Girls, like she was the one, like the genius who like really got the ball rolling and created the base characters. I saw her like at that first brony convention in Jersey. I
oh
remember
wow.
they actually they gave her like a giant Obama poster of her unicorn Sona that said "Create." I'll see if I can find it. It was like, I swear she was almost in tears when they gave it to her.
It's funny how pervasive brony subculture, and in some ways, it
It
still
was
is.
fun. It was fun time. Like bronies are like a lot of like different, like very like creative. Like they weren't just all like into like baby horse shows. Like like a lot of them were like gamers, weebs, stuff like that. So like yeah, like early brony stuff was a different time. I've kind of been checked out of that for a while, just really doing my own thing, but I do have like fond memories, and I do have like it's why I mean Dash Attack, like that was actually when I wrote brony fan fiction, that was my fan fiction tag name.
Nice.
Yeah, so like I kept the name, just doing different things now.
That's a good origin story.
Yeah, it was actually my first kind of experience at like trying to be an internet personality, but I've had way more success with YouTube than I ever had as a cringe Brody writer.
There's so much like so many people have written fan fiction, but there are very few people that admit to it. But I know I've on the few, I've had times where I've gone, where you're curious and you're clicking away and you look at places, that doesn't exist anymore, but like Age of Fire or was it fanfiction.net? It's just
I think
like
that's
the
still
numbers.
around. I think that's still around.
Yeah, then the numbers of stories, I swear it's in the hundreds of millions. I wouldn't be surprised
Well,
if
a
it's in
lot
the,
of those stories became memes, like Legolas by Laura, My Immortal. Like, like a lot of mostly like the bad ones become famous.
so it's like a ton of people are reading this stuff and a lot of people are writing it, but hardly anyone owns up to it.
Yeah, like I did think at one point of maybe doing some dramatic readings of some of my stuff, but I'm just afraid of how embarrassing that might be, because it's, I don't know. I had one like kind of big hit. Like a lot of it is just, it's probably not what I'd do if I did it now. Oh man, it seems like a lifetime ago.
I would say this is the advice my friend Vito gave me, and he says if you have a stupid idea that you kind of want to try, you should just go ahead and do it because you never know if it might actually work.
Oh yeah, I'll
And I
definitely.
think it is. I think that is good advice because for him, his best videos are those things, or like give the Pepsi pop can to like the protester and the police, or the Belle Delphine thing, and it's like you just kind of. It's easy to say, it's harder to do, but just kind of do your weird ideas you have, try them out.
Yeah,
So there's my vocal support. I don't know if that does much for you.
yeah, I'll give it a shot. Maybe as a subscriber milestone the next time. Not sure what milestone that'll be, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. All right. So we pretty much talked about like pretty much everything that's like going on at the moment, unless there's like anything you want to talk about.
I have taken up way too much of this conversation. This is my problem. I'm tired and I have a little bit of caffeine in me, and I'm just talking too much.
Okay, we can end the show here if that's all right.
It's your stream.
I think I've pretty much ran out of topics, but thank you so much for coming on. Like, you were a great guest. I love all my guests.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed it. I like talking about these things, and you're someone that I know that tries to be very reasonable and persuasive, and you don't try to just throw more wood on the fire.
Oh yeah, I'm not that type of person. I try and take things from a very logical like perspective. Like, I'm not trying to just like get people angry. Like, I want to actually see like fix some of these problems we're having.
Yeah, me too. It's not. It is definitely the slower path, but at least for myself, I feel like it's the right one.
Yeah, same. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
and thank you all for watching. I'll please remember to like and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all next time. This is Dash Attack and Culture Scape signing out.
Bye.